Week 2 of Bill Cosby's criminal trial begins tomorrow. Prosecutors just rested their case Friday. Last month, the 79-year-old comedian said he wouldn't take the stand, but now Cosby's publicist signals that could be an option.
A lot of things were previously said, but in a ball game, things have changed and players are taken out, and sometimes the star player plays and sometimes they don't.
Cosby's charged with 3 felony counts of aggravated indecent assault. He's denied these allegations. On Tuesday, his accuser, Andrea Constead, took the stand, recalling her encounter with Cosby, saying, quote, "I jolted awake and I felt Mr. Cosby's hand groping my breasts under my shirt." Another accuser, Kelly Johnson, testified this week, quote, "I remember him being behind me, making those grunting sounds. I remember wanting to pull up my dress and wanting to cover myself, but not being able to." Now, Cosby's lawyer rebutted those stories. He pointed to an ongoing friendship between Cosby and those accusers. Referring to Constead, the defense said, quote, "She called him continuously. They spoke at times for 35 minutes a pop. Their relationship continued. The phone calls continued." Joining me now is Washington Post reporter Manuel Roi-Franzia, who's been reporting on the trial, as well as Lili Bernard, who has a separate accusation against Cosby of drugging and raping her in the 90s. But I first want to get a report from NBC's Ron Allen, who has been at the courthouse. What will happen this week?
Well, the defense begins, Ari, and it's unclear. These hints that Cosby might testify are certainly dramatic, but most of the people I've talked to at the courtroom think it's very unlikely that he would do that. And it just potentially opens up so many possible lines of attack, perhaps. Very dramatic week last week. I think it was a very strong week for the prosecution. Andrea Constead was very strong. She was emotional, but she was measured, and she seemed to be a fairly reasonable person. And that, along with Kelly Johnson's testimony and also Andrea Constand's mother's testimony, really was very powerful as well. The jury has also heard Bill Cosby through his police statements and through some statements that he made in a long deposition in the civil case. They've heard his side of the story. The prosecution brought those 2 statements in to get other things in. For example, the part about him using Quaaludes at some point in the past to try during his involvement with sex with young women. But so unclear. It's going to be a very dramatic week, though. And the judge has said that he thinks this could end very early this week. He said Monday.
Wow. All right, Ron, thank you for your reporting. Lili, I want to turn to you as someone who's been a part of this story, but you're not part of this trial. I was there this week covering it. I saw you there. What are your thoughts watching this happen?
Well, I would like to speak to a subject of which I wrote in an op-ed piece that's published in today's Los Angeles Times. You can also view it online. And it refutes Bill Cosby's claim that he is being racially targeted and that he is a victim of a lynch mob. This is significant with regard to Kelly Johnson's appearance on the stand, that out of the 60 of us women who have found the fortitude to publicly disclose that we have been drugged and or sexually violated by Bill Cosby, more than a third of us, close to 37% of us, are Black women. And so when I was wrought with fear for months, struggling to decide whether or not I would publicly disclose, and I was contending with the likely reality that I would be re-victimized, that I would have retribution. One of the things that I had to contend with was the extra burden of being a Black woman, publicly accusing a beloved Black icon, a father figure, of drugging and raping me. And during this process, several of my celebrity friends reached out to me, trying to convince me to come public, assuring me that they and several people in the entertainment industry were privy to Bill Cosby's criminality. I want to say something very important here, that one friend came to my house and showed me a text that was written to her by a notable Black male figure in the entertainment industry, Quincy Jones. And the text said, I saw the text, it said that I've been telling Bill for years to stop drugging women. And I mention this because whereas I'm sensitive and understand the cognitive dissonance that would make bystanders of Bill Cosby's criminality silent and not speak out, it is at the same time this silence upon which rapists, serial rapists such as Bill Cosby rely in order to keep perpetrating with impunity.
One other thing I wanted to get from you about the trial is when you heard these women testify, did it strike you as similar to what you say you went through?
Yes, absolutely. What I didn't see in the courtroom was a race card. I did not see any effects of racism, but what I did see very strongly being played out was sexism and misogyny and the re-victimization of the victim and the character assassination of the victims. As I was in the courtroom, and I had a clear view of Bill Cosby, Andrea Constant, the victim, who has become a dear friend to me over the course of more than 2 years. We've spent time together in person. And then the jury. And it was difficult for me to watch Andrea cry on the stand and to speak about things that I had never heard her speak about. And then to see Bill Cosby with his face turned away, smirking and scowling and shaking his face, pontificating in the most phony gestures. It was disgusting as McGonigal, the defense attorney, was also pontificating and gesticulating and yelling at Kelly, and it was traumatic. It was disappointing, and all it did was verify everything that we've heard about rape culture in the past. That part of the reason that rape victims are so afraid to come public is because of this blaming and shaming that they will inevitably endure on the stand.
So let me ask you about that, and then I'm going to bring in Manuel in because I've asked him to be a part of this for his reporting. But the final question I had to you, though, was, as you know from being there, the Cosby defense made the argument that because there was later contact or even potential friendship between him and the accuser, that somehow undermined the accusations. I wanted to give you a chance to respond to that if you had any view of that.
You're talking to me or Manuel? Well,
sorry,
first of all,
Lili.
Okay. First of all, what was pointed out is that out of these 75 or so phone calls that were made, of which 53 of them came from Andrea Constant, that all of those phone calls were a response to Bill Cosby leaving messages on her answering machine. So she was responding to his messages. She was calling him back in her duty as an employee of Temple University, the institution which was receiving money from Bill Cosby. It was a professional relationship. She was doing what she had to do in her obligation, in her job. She was merely returning his phone callings, and they were phone calls. So they were painting it falsely as if, she was initiating these phone calls, and she was not.
Understood. Manuel, turning to you, what did you see in court this week, and where do you think this case goes?
What stands out for me are the emotions. Tears and sadness from Andrea Constant and Kelly Johnson, the two women who were in court to say that they had been sexually assaulted, and the anger, which will stick with us for a long time, I think, of Andrea Constant's mother, Gianna, who got on the stand and really shot down the defense attorney who was cross-examining her and told the jury that Bill Cosby got on the phone with her, confessed to drugging her daughter, and said that he was a sick, sick man.
Wow. And do you think he will take the stand?
It's a tough one. In cases like this, you open yourself up to a lot of risk. I think what we're seeing here is that the prosecution ended with a lot of momentum, and so it's maybe not a surprise that the defense would be looking for some way to work an emotional approach to this at the very end, maybe even gaming the prosecution a little bit by planting the seed that he could go on the stand.
Right. Well, it is an important case and one that a lot of people have followed, given all the accusations. Manuel, Roi-Franzia, for your reporting, I thank you. And Lili Bernard, we've spoken before. I appreciate you making time tonight.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you both. That does it for our edition of The Point this Sunday night. You can always follow me on Twitter and Facebook, and you